What kind of gaming experience can we get if we pair the RX 9070 with a 1440p monitor? Let's find out. To test this, I paired the Sapphire Pulse version of the RX 9070 with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU as part of the Be Quiet PC build powered by MSI. And we'll be experiencing the games today on one of the best monitors for the job. This is the MSI 271QRX 1440p QD OLED 360Hz monitor. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Let's begin with a game that should be a great example of what a modern game should look like and how it should perform. This is Horizon Forbidden West, a beautiful, well-optimized game. And we'll start our testing at 1440p native resolution using FSR 4 native AA. Ignore that FSR 3 symbol over there. You can swap FSR 3.1 to FSR 4 in the Adrenaline software. As you can see, it is currently active, FSR 4 enabled for this game. As for the settings, we are using the absolute maximum, very high, everything on, and field of view is maxed out as well. The only things that I've turned off are all of these not so pleasant effects, especially the ones that blur the image, depth of field, as well as motion blur. I turned them off. And take a look at this beautiful performance at native 1440p. Up to 100 FPS in this beautiful game with all the settings maxed out. Amazing. There's a lot going on in this scene right here. So we're dropping to around 80 plus. That's no big deal because this is still a next level up from the 60 FPS experience. 90-ish is the way to go for any action-adventure game, in my opinion. Yeah, if you can reach that 90 FPS, especially if you have a nice monitor that has great motion clarity, then it's well worth it to have 90-ish FPS. It feels so good. Furthermore, FSR 4 Anti-Aliasing improves the image quality. Yes, FSR 3 Anti-Aliasing looks very bad compared to this one. Now I can see everything clearly. Visual issues are minimal, especially you can feel it in moving small objects such as leaves, insects, as well as pollen. Yes, pollen was really difficult for FSR 3 to resolve. Any translucent particles, FSR 3 was struggling with it, and that is why I hated FSR up until the point when FSR 4 came out. Now I'm actually okay with using FSR 4 resolution upscaling. Let's select quality mode. Yes, let's go for that. This increased our FPS by quite a bit. We're getting a consistent 100 plus FPS right now, although the frame rate is not as smooth as I would have liked it to be in some scenes. Previously in the town area, as well as in some of these areas, you see that there are a few spikes here and there, although generally this still feels quite smooth. Yeah, it's pretty good. And in terms of image quality, now FSR 4 quality is actually enjoyable. Yes, I really much like it, and when I'm playing my games now on AMD graphics cards, I always turn on FSR 4 quality mode, the same as I do with DLSS quality mode. At 1440p, I always use it. In my opinion, FSR 4 is very competitive versus DLSS 4. I can't really tell any difference between the two. FSR 4 is better in some ways, DLSS 4 is better in other ways, and both have their own drawbacks as well, so don't forget about that. No technology is perfect. Let's go ahead and enable FSR 4 balanced mode. In terms of performance, we're not getting that much more out of the FSR 4 balanced mode compared to FSR 4 quality mode. That was good enough in terms of FPS, in this game at least. But what we do get is lower image quality. The image presented on the screen now is looking a lot softer, so finer details are not as crisp and sharp. But in terms of image quality, FSR 4 balanced mode still looks good. It is stable, no issues. Yeah, I think it is still usable. If you are in a pinch and you need more FPS, then it's good enough to use, in my opinion. Performance mode, on the other hand, I don't like that one. That's just you're losing way too many finer details, and the image presented on the screen becomes way too soft. So I do not recommend using FSR 4 performance mode at 1440p. At least I'm not going to, because I don't like it. I don't think it's worth it. Monster Hunter Wilds is one of the latest games, and in contrast to Horizon Forbidden West, it is poorly optimized and it doesn't really look all that great. We are at 1440p native resolution using FSR 4, not FSR 3. As you can see over here, it says uses AMD FSR 4 instead of 3, because once again I used the override feature to override FSR 3 and upgrade it to FSR 4. And the rest of the settings are absolutely maxed out. Ray tracing on high, texture quality on the highest, and everything else is absolutely maxed out. The only thing I want to do is I want to disable motion blur as well as depth of field to ensure that we see everything clearly. Unfortunately, the highest texture pack is still broken in this game. Just take a look at that horrible frame rate. Yes, it is very choppy, unpleasant, and it is all because of that high-res texture DLC that enables us to select the highest texture quality over here. Just take a look at what happens if I disable it and go to high. That's the standard that you get if you don't download that DLC right away. The frame rate is much smoother. You can see that on the frame rate graph over here, although we still get some fluctuations if we pan the camera. That is something that is happening in the game. That's one of the technical problems this game experiences. But at least the frame rate is now smooth, and that is why I'm telling you, don't use the highest graphics quality preset. I don't recommend going above the high texture quality. But that kind of performance is not pleasant, so let's go ahead and boost our FPS by turning on FSR 4 quality mode. That gave us a nice FPS boost when stationary. We are seeing 80 plus FPS in some scenes, and then 70 plus in other scenes. But when we pan the camera, the FPS can drop as low as 56. Yeah, but this isn't actually too bad. It is already playable, and you can kind of begin enjoying this game using this graphics configuration, okay? But obviously you want more FPS for an even better experience, because there will be some levels in the game where the FPS will be even lower than this. Next, I want to try lowering the ray tracing quality to see if we can get a better experience. Personally, I like playing this game with ray tracing enabled because it was obviously built around ray tracing, and without ray tracing, some of the scenes just don't look right. Especially in cutscenes, some of the lighting and shadows, they just look wrong. Okay, so at high ray tracing, we're getting around 80-ish FPS in this scene. Let's go ahead and lower that ray tracing to low and see what happens then. Not much really, we're still getting the same kind of FPS, 80-ish, so it doesn't matter if you're running low ray tracing or high ray tracing, at least in this particular scene. And now let's go ahead and disable ray tracing completely. That actually gave us a little boost of performance, But it's not a consistent boost, is it? It's about 5 to 8 FPS extra, which isn't much. In the grand scheme of things, this is peanuts. So I think it's just worth keeping that ray tracing enabled to enjoy the game properly with much more pleasant presentation in terms of shadows and lighting. Because without ray tracing, even this scene right here, it looks so weird. Yeah, not great. Outside, it is more bearable to play without ray tracing. As a last resort, in order to get more FPS, we can lower the graphics quality. Let's go for the low preset instead of ultra, the one we had previously. And also, that actually lowers our upscaling quality to ultra performance. That is unacceptable. We're going to continue using FSR 4 quality mode. The game looks absolutely horrible now. Some of the textures over here look like something that you won't even see in Skyrim. It's that bad. But other textures are actually okay. For example, characters, they still look fine. And the performance is now 90 plus, 100 plus in other scenes, but when we pan the camera, okay, it stays above 90. This is a more stable experience, but at what cost? Ray tracing disabled and the graphics quality set to low. Wow, okay. Yeah, this game needs some optimizations, definitely. Next up is Alan Wake 2, and this is the worst case scenario for any AMD graphics card, because this game was built with NVIDIA graphics cards in mind. It uses a lot of NVIDIA tech, so it will be interesting to see how well the RX 9070 will handle it. Another downside of this game is that it uses FSR2, which means that there is no way we can officially use FSR 4 in this game, because I doubt that Remedy will ever update it to FSR 4, unless you want to use third-party software to mod FSR 4 into this game via DLSS. Then yeah, unfortunately, we are out of luck on this one in terms of resolution upscaling. Let's take a look at the settings. We are at native 1440p using maxed out graphics settings. Everything is maxed out, and ray tracing is disabled for now, but we'll take a look at it later. Without ray tracing, the RX 9070 is delivering a good experience in this game, as you can see. 70 plus FPS, 60 plus over here. Everything seems to be alright. And even 80 plus in some other scenes in the town area. However, because we are using FSR2 as our anti-aliasing solution, yeah, the anti-aliasing part looks quite horrible. As a result, the overall image presented on the screen is not as good as in other games we've seen so far. It's even worse than in Monster Hunter Wilds, at least there. We had FSR 4 to get rid of those jaggies properly without losing much in terms of finer details on leaves as well as grass. But FSR 2 absolutely sucks. As a result, even at native 1440p using the highest graphics settings, this game doesn't look good. I mean, if you fire it up on an NVIDIA graphics card with the same kind of settings, you'll have a very different experience. Also, in the forest level of the game, we can't maintain a consistent 60 plus FPS using the current set of settings, maxed out graphics, even without ray tracing, 40 plus FPS. And as we travel deeper into the forest, we will come across some sections where we will be able to experience 60 plus FPS. But in my opinion, this is not good enough, so let's go ahead and actually lower some of the graphics settings. Let's use the high graphics quality preset, which the game actually recommends. And even using the high quality preset, we still can't quite get that 60 plus FPS. So the RX 9070 unfortunately is falling short of a pleasant experience in the worst case scenario. Not only in terms of the overall image presentation, but also in terms of performance. In the town area, the performance is even better using the high graphics quality preset. We're getting 80 plus more consistently, and even up to 90 plus in some other scenes. Since we have a little bit of extra performance available to us in that particular level of the game, we can try ray tracing. Let's select medium because low, it's not worth it, it's not looking that good. Medium is like the lowest ray tracing preset I would consider enabling in this game. And this is quite a horrible experience, both in terms of performance as well as visuals, because now all those ray tracing effects, they're causing quite a lot of noise. You see those white dots flickering? Yeah, that is noise. And it's quite unpleasant to look at. It's quite distracting. NVIDIA has DLSS ray reconstruction to get rid of all of that noise, and it works really well in this game. On NVIDIA GPUs, of course, but AMD doesn't have anything like that. As a result, the lighting looks wrong, as well as the reflections. They all look grainy. There's a lot of noise in those reflections. They just don't look right. This is something that you have to keep in mind if you're planning on buying an AMD graphics card, is that some games are just built for NVIDIA and don't support AMD that well. So yeah, while the RX 9000 series is a brilliant AMD step in the right direction, in my opinion, I really like these new GPUs and I really like FSR 4. But unfortunately, in some of the older titles, as recent as this one right here, Alan Wake 2, I believe it was the end of 2023 when it came out, October if I'm not mistaken, so not that long ago, and the game still looks absolutely beautiful in terms of visuals, but that is true only for those who own an NVIDIA graphics card. Unfortunately, it is highly likely that there will be more games like this one here coming out in 2025 and beyond that are not very friendly towards AMD GPUs. Just keep in mind that you won't be getting the perfect experience in all of the games if you decide to go for the RX 9070. Lastly, let's take a look at the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We are at 1440p using the experimental graphics quality preset, and FOV is set to 100. Unfortunately, even though this game features FSR 3.1, I was not able to override it to FSR 4 using the Adrenaline software. For some reason, it just doesn't work for me. There is no option to enable FSR 4, while I know that some of my friends actually managed to do that. So that is quite bizarre and something to keep in mind that, once again, AMD's software is not perfect and there are some kinks that they still have to work on. But we'll still have a look at the game using the native resolution. At experimental graphics quality preset, it's not quite a smooth experience because we're experiencing dips below 60, and I'm pretty sure that we'll drop below 50 over here. Yes, indeed, 41, 39. Okay, that's not good. The experimental graphics quality preset turned out just a little bit too much to handle for the RX 9070, so let's go ahead and lower that to the Ultra preset. That is much better. 68 to 70 plus FPS. Not bad. It's a pretty smooth experience overall. And will we drop below 60? No, even over here, it's fine. 60 plus at all times. But barely. There's very little room in terms of performance, and there will probably be some levels in this game where we'll actually drop below 60. So I really hope that when that comes, when I reach those levels, that I'll have FSR 4 to fall back on in this game. Unfortunately, even the anti-aliasing is still using FSR 3.1, which makes the game look quite a bit worse compared to what we would have had if we were using FSR 4 anti-aliasing. That looks much nicer, as we've seen in Horizon Forbidden West. Let's enable FSR 4 quality mode just to get a glimpse of what we can expect from FSR 4 in terms of performance. Bear in mind that FSR 4 performance won't be as high as FSR 3.1, so we'll probably see about 10 FPS less. Still, it's quite a good experience. 90 to 100 plus, so that would be 80 to 90 plus with FSR 4. That's my estimate. To improve performance even further without the use of FSR, we can try lowering the graphics quality to high. Let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. Alright, 100 plus FPS. This is nice. So if you are after a high refresh rate experience in this game, then it is possible to achieve it on the RX 9070. Well, kind of. 90 plus is like the minimum requirement for high frame rate experiences, but 120 is really where it's at. And this is not quite a 120 FPS experience. In that regard, the RX 9070 XT would have done a much better job than the RX 9070. Yeah, that graphics card delivers quite a bit more FPS compared to this one. In conclusion, the RX 9070 delivered quite a good experience in some games and failed to deliver a pleasant experience in other games that are among the most demanding currently available, like Alan Wake 2, for example. So it's not a zero compromise solution for 1440p gaming, that is for sure. But FSR 4 looks good and feels good, so that's a good addition. And the fact that this graphics card has 16 gigabytes of memory is also great, because you won't have to worry about running out of video memory in current as well as future games that are coming out. They will be demanding, even at 1440p, they will require more than 12 gigabytes of memory to run the highest quality textures. That said, if you can find the RX 9070 XT at a slightly higher price, something like, I don't know, maybe $50 to $100 more than the RX 9070, then this one is definitely worth it. If you can stretch your budget a little bit further, the RX 9070 XT is a better buy because it has better performance, better ray tracing performance. It's just better in every way. But also make sure that you don't overspend on the 9070 XT, because if it is priced close to the 5070 Ti by NVIDIA, then it's definitely worth going for the NVIDIA option, because then you won't have to deal with all these quirks that come with owning an AMD GPU. DLSS 4 has a much more wider adoption rate. Furthermore, the 5070 Ti has a better ray tracing performance as well, and you won't have to struggle in older games that don't support FSR 4. For example, Alan Wake 2 works perfectly fine on the 5070 Ti. That's what I think about this combo. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. That helps out a lot, I appreciate it. And subscribe for more if you haven't already. Also, if you're interested in any products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.